Shabbat, Shabbat, come home and rest. Shabbat, Shabbat, Yahowah's best. Lay down the weak, let your soul be free. Shabbat, Shabbat, come back to me. 6 days we work, then we bask. We leave the noise to hear Yah's voice. We listen, we learn, we struggle to know. We walk with Yah through the mikray. Shabbat, Shabbat, come home and rest. Shabbat, Shabbat, Yahowah's best. Lay down the weak, let your soul be free. Shabbat, Shabbat, come back to me.
I love it. Oh, that's a new introduction for our family hour here on the Shabbat. And I realize it's not Shabbat time for everyone. It isn't even Shabbat time for Rainbow, Kansas boy up there on the top. And it's certainly not for you in the People's Republic of California. You're still mid-morning in all likelihood. But for us Easterners, the sun is within about 30 minutes of sinking, maybe even less than that for us in the U.S. Virgin Islands. So it is definitely Shabbat, 7 hours ahead in Yisra'el, and that is our target audience. So that certainly is appropriate for this show. I love the new introduction. It's excellent.
Yeah.
He did that for us. Oda Lape, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, now, how does he pronounce his name?
Oh, don't make me do it again. Oladipopo. Oladipopo.
Wow, Oladipopo. Does he have a short version of that?
I just call him Lottie.
Lottie, is that what he likes?
Yeah.
Or does he like Oladipopo?
I'm Irish, so Lottie sounded good.
Okay, there we go. All right. He is our Nigerian covenant member, right? He's from Nigeria, moved to New York City, and is a techno wizard.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. He's done.
Okay.
I've
seen a lot of things from
tonight
him.
Is his. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I hear a lot of really wonderful things about him. We'll have maybe find out a way that get him on one of our shows, and more people in the family can meet him.
Yeah, absolutely, you can do that.
Okay, so your contribution to the introduction of the show, since I've worn you out, I've been told in the 5-day vlog on the vlog is Audio Popo and the new Shabbat introduction. That's a pretty good start, though.
Okay, all I'm going to say is after that song, I am in such a much better mood, and all I can say is TYIS. So,
okay,
thank you. It's Shabbat.
Yeah, there it is. And, we have a very different view of Shabbat than do the rabbinical types. Last time I checked, verbs define nouns, and Shabbat is a verb. Yep. And everything that I have ever studied about Yahweh is all of the most challenging things that he has achieved, the hardest things that he achieved. They're always on a Shabbat. This next Shabuw'ah, it's a Shabbat. The Shabbat for the harvest a little over a year from now, it's on a Shabbat. The Towrah, which is the greatest day, God's going to do more things on Shabuw'ah than on any other day. In fact, I think God's going to do more things on this next Towrah, which is a Friday evening, Saturday, Shabbat, than he has done since creation. I think it's that busy a day. And if God's working that hard on a Shabbat is not do nothing day.
That's right. It is not.
No, and he's leading us all back into the garden. It's also on a Shabbat, and it's a 1,000-year celebration of the Shabbat, where we get to prove that we can work with Yahweh and get things accomplished. So I'm going to view Shabbat as an active day. And there's my friend Captain Kirk, and I know you don't have a lot to say, because typically what I get is a thumbs up at this point of the show, but I did make a major accomplishment with Captain Kirk there. We got Captain Kirk to participate in the chat and messaging pages on Yahowah, and for Kirk, who is an analog guy, to bring him into Yahowah world. Welcome home, pal. I think that was a major achievement. You're going to find
do you?
Yeah, you're going to love that place. You're going to really love it. I've gone to the point where I was a texter and an emailer and loved email and texting. I have very seldom text and I very seldom email now. I'm almost all communicating at yahowah.com because everybody that I want to talk to is there. and we can all, yeah. I mean, so it's just marvelous from my point of view. And I understand you have a story you're going to tell us, Mike. I didn't know you were a storyteller. I know you're a drummer, but a storyteller, fact checker, storyteller, drummer, Renaissance man.
I just have a couple of short stories from this week. So last weekend I was cleaning out my home office, and I found a 3-ring binder, and so it had like the original, well, probably the original or light chapter, you know, the one that really got me into this. Wow. And then I found a printout of email conversation thread, you know, that we had back and forth. So I had asked you about the 3 doors, and then
I made the 3 doors. That goes back to the arc when we were doing the original translation of that portion with like Genesis 6 or 7, something in that range.
Yeah,
early on. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. This is 2000. Okay, so I forgot to tell you that the email was from 2008.
Yeah. So actually, the 3 doors came about in my first translation of Hosea. So that's the first chapter I ever wrote for Yahowah. Is I wrote trying to correct my pals Ken Powers' work on a book, and I couldn't correct it. I had to rewrite it, and so I ended up translating. My first book ever was Hosea, and very quickly in Hosea I learned that, boy, that whole religious concepts of all souls go to heaven or hell was just absolutely wrong, and it had to be wrong, and that most souls simply dissipate upon their mortal demise. And so I think we were the first ever to deduce that Yah's testimony says that there are 3 fates for human souls, not 2. And the one that's the most common is the one that no one seems to want to talk about. So that goes back to an original treasure, my friend. That could be, you know, like put in the museum section of Yahowah, in the archives in the museum section of Yahowah, pal.
Yeah.
Well, wow. I first to explain that, I think ever. To this day, there's not anyone touting that.
No, no one has even picked up on it, and it's the reason you're here. So
that was one of the big reasons I stayed away from almost every religion.
Yeah. I mean, everybody who is a thinking agnostic recognizes that a God who would say, "You must obey me and love me, or I will torture your soul forever in hell," isn't worth knowing, isn't worth loving, isn't worth obeying. That's a tyrant. And so if that was God's approach, heaven or hell, then he wouldn't be worth knowing. And so here I am now. I've jettisoned, walked away from Christianity and from politics. I'm translating this Hosea for a really good pal of mine, Ken Powers, and I get into it, and one of the first things I notice is, wow, that is amazing. What he's telling us here is that rather than 2 destinations for human souls, there's 3 outcomes. And the big outcome is the soul is simply dissipated. So the souls of people who were misled, who didn't mislead others, but never came to know who Yahweh was or what he's offering, they simply dissipate. It's not a penalty. It's fair. They don't know him. He doesn't know them. And that only those who actively mislead end up with an eternal existence in Sheol. And the religious view of Sheol isn't even right. There are no fires. It's a dark, lightless place. No fires. It's just eternal carceration of a soul. No tortures. And that Shamaim heaven was limited to unreligious people. And I thought that was so foundational to everything we'd come to know about God. It's one of the very first profound discoveries. And it rings as accurate today as it did when we first discovered it. So if you could keep that, I would like, to put that in the Yahowah Hall of Fame and the museum wing for foundational archive. Because I think about that all the time. We've part of learning is that you realize that you've said things that could be said a different way or more clearly, or you grow past an understanding into something new. But I realized that, it's probably 90% of the insights that we've had are consistent all the way through for 25 years, and that's one of them. And there's others that have made, we've nuanced them and added to them and refined them over time. But yeah, save that sucker. That's a good one. Thank you for bringing that up. That's a good start.
Okay, I'll try to make a PDF. I'll scan it and make a PDF. Okay, then further on, we were having this conversation. Then I made a PowerPoint presentation based on the Or Light chapter, and I sent that to you in this thread. And then I fact checked you. I think this might have been the first time I fact checked you. I don't know, but in Psalm 22:7, you had said Aradatha instead of Aria lion. And he said, and then you replied and said it was like an old version of Logos or something that was wrong. Or something.
Yes.
Okay. The second story is, so like Thursday morning around 10 o'clock, I was about ready to leave for work. I go in late to miss all the traffic in Dallas because there's always wrecks. Like the other day, there was like 5 wrecks on 75. That's the highway I have to take. Anyway, so I'm about ready to leave, and the doorbell rings and knock on the door, and I open the door, and there's 2 Mormon kids standing out there. So I had a conversation with them. So I told them, I asked them if they knew God's name. They go, Jehovah, like no, it's Yahowah. And let's see, and then I told them that Dowd was the Messiah and Son of God and all that, and there was no Jesus Christ, and that wasn't going over very well with them.
No, probably not.
That Paul,
he didn't make any friends.
Making friends and influencing people. No, and I told him Paul was a false prophet and demon possessed. I told him he had admitted to being demon possessed in 2 Corinthians 12:7.
Yeah, so in Romans he admits to being a sexual pervert.
Well, the one kid
that probably would have
looked up 2 Corinthians, and then I don't know, he didn't get it. And then let's see what else. I told him I asked him about the mikra. They don't know anything about that. And then,
of course not.
The first thing they said is, we want to invite you to the temple on Sunday. And I go, well, Sunday's not the Shabbat. Sunday is like sun god worship day. And they were kind of taken aback by that. And
really?
And then, and let's see what else. Oh, I told him Joseph Smith was a fraud, the gold or copper tablets and all that.
Yeah, the golden tablet. Yeah.
And then
the funniest story about that is that he wanted to prove, somebody wanted him to prove that his credentials, because he claimed that he was chosen because he was an expert in deciphering ancient languages. So he was the perfect guy. Now, he didn't, by the way, say what language the golden tablet was, but he claimed to be and when they asked him for proof of it, he said, I lost it.
Right. Yeah. Conveniently lost it.
Yeah, completely. I lost it. But so somebody said, okay, here's a citation from ancient Egypt. Why don't you read
hieroglyphics?
Yeah, hieroglyphics. And so this was before the Rosetta Stone. And he said, oh yeah, I can, no problem. I can decipher this. It's talking about Abraham and forming of the covenant and his relationship with Sarah and with Yishak is what it's all about. And so they said, okay, write it all down. Then the Rosetta Stone comes out and everybody can read the hieroglyphics. It's actually an incantation from the Book of the Dead. Yeah, the Book of the Dead. And so, of course, when that was shown to Mormons that he was complete and utter fraud, it didn't change. It just like what you said, your religion is a complete fraud. Doesn't faze them because their faith is impervious to facts.
Right. Yeah, it didn't faze them at all. So at the end of all this conversation, I tried to give him one of Shannon's cards, because Shannon stopped by a few weeks ago, gave me some cards. They wouldn't even take this card,
God, so what are you afraid of? It has God's name on it. You're afraid of God's name?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, no. Thank you
for
for knocking the Mormons off the rocker. It was always. I'm sure it was entertaining for you at least.
Yeah, it was.
It was. So, what you thinking there, Will?
We had a breakthrough this week. We were working on the Hebrew grammar, and it was a nice collaboration, I think, for all of us to do that. And once we get it up and we get it edited, which shouldn't take too long, I think it's going to be really great because it's beyond Hebrew grammar. It talks about the concepts of the grammar and the ancient Hebrew mind, the ancient Eastern mind versus the modern Greco-Roman mind, and how we're abstract and adjective based, and Hebrew's a verb based language. I mean, it's an action oriented. Most of it's in the kal stem, so it's literal, genuine, the most simple form of the verb. So I'm learning a lot, and everybody's been able to throw their hat in the ring, and we all did it together.
I've talked a lot about my favorite part of Hebrew is that Hebrew reads like light exists, that there is no verb stuck in time. Just on a photon of light, all time exists simultaneously. And so anything said in a Hebrew verb is true for all time, past, present, and future. And that's always been my favorite part of Hebrew, is that it reflects the light that Yahweh tells us that he is most similar to. And it explains prophecy when you realize that Hebrew verbs are like light, because on a photon of light, if you're energy based, you can witness our future and our past and report what happens, where our choices lead, long before they do, so that you're not predicting anything. All you do is you're reporting on future history. So it gives God the ability to tell us exactly where our free will choices will lead. So when they do, we can trust what he has said to us in the past. And that's always been my favorite part of Hebrew. Yeah. But what I don't think I've ever said, because I've been so focused on the details, sometimes I haven't pulled back on it, because I love the stems, because God's interested in one thing, establishing a relationship with us. And the stems exist to establish a relationship between the subject and the object pursuant to the action of the verb. And I think that's absolutely brilliant, that he would have a language with 7 stems that describe and frame the action between the person speaking, or the subject of a verb, and the object of a verb. I thought that was great. And to have a language that doesn't only revolve around free will, because that's sacrosanct to Yahweh's free will. There are 3 expressions of free will. You can express free will first, second, and third person. So you can write a verb that says that this is what you want, and I agree with you. I'm right there the same way. I want what you want. And what language could you ever? I mean, I just think that's magnificent. But what you've said is something that I have never shared before. I'm not even sure I recognized it previously. That's why we can learn from one another. Is that we have come to realize here in the last several months that the thing God's most interested in is our response, action, engaging, being steadfast, seeing the job through. We've learned a lot about tamam, finishing, completing. And so what you're saying is that the mindset of Hebrew is not so much adjective and adverb driven, although I think there's a fairly significant influence of adverbs, not so much adjectives, but that it's action oriented. It is a language that revolves around the verbs. Now, I've said this a lot because I came to realize the only way I could translate Yahweh's words accurately is to look up the verbal root of every word. Yep. And so I take the time, everything I translate, I go to the verbal root, like Shabbat. That's my discipline. That's my standard operating procedure. I don't think anyone's ever done that before. And so you're saying that is appropriate for Hebrew because the whole language revolves around action. But I would just take it one further, which is that Yahweh's entire purpose is to get us actively engaged with him. It's the only way he can determine whether or not we can be trusted, and that we'd be fun to explore the universe with and do things forevermore, is for us to try, fail, learn, make mistakes, correct them. We need to engage. We need to contribute to the relationship, as opposed to save me. No. Make a contribution. Find a way to contribute. That's what you were doing with the team that is developing the grammar insights for the Hebrew language, which are very profound.
Yeah. So that's been great. That's great.
Yeah, it's
learning
great stuff.
experience.
Great stuff. Yeah, I didn't know what we were going to end up with at the end. If we we're going to end up with 4 distinct presentations of grammar, 4 or 5. I know, Mike, you have yours. JB has one. You were putting together one, and Perry has a kind of a combination one. And so I didn't know if we're going to end up with 4 independent grammar presentation, and Kirk did one. So that'd be 5 independent grammar presentations, or if we're going to try to fold and meld them into one presentation, with the hope that that presentation did what you said. If, like, I would, before I ever talked about grammar, I would talk about the attitude of the language, you know, how it verbs are never stuck in time, and how they you have essentially 2 ways to conjugate these verbs, ongoing action or action that's finite in its time, and how the infinitive and the imperfect are parallel in this regard, but one creating a verbal noun, which is really action-oriented, perfect example, and the participle, which does the same thing as the perfect, but turns your verb into a noun.
Yep.
Yeah.
Did you see Perry's consolidation with AI? I thought that was pretty good.
Yeah. So if and I have not, because between doing the 2 programs every day, and I think on one day, on Monday, I think it was, but we did 3. But that's taken a lot of time, and I've spent more time with Joe working on the website than ever before. I'm not a technologist, but I've got an eye for what we're trying to achieve and a mindset. And so Joe and I will go through details that you would never ever think that you would even think anybody would even bother to talk about. But I've got a pretty keen idea as what we're trying to achieve and the look we want to have. And so we spend a lot of time, hours and hours and hours on the back end of that. And then the other thing is that I've now realized that I have 4 versions of Coming Home 4, and they vary in length from 350 pages to 700 pages. And there's 4 versions of Coming Home 4, combined 2,000 pages, because I wrote it based upon something we were experiencing that I could share as part of these programs. And then we learned something new, and then I'd have to go into that so I could translate it and think about it and prepare for sharing it on these kind of programs. And over these past 3 to 4 months, we've done that now 4 different times. The Luminary program that we'll get into later this evening, it happens to be an example of that. After we did the last word picture, which then turned into a 700-page book on the last word picture, it took me right back to, I got to tell the story of the 2 luminaries and walk them all the way through the process. And so that it's the book that is going to be Coming Home 6. And I'll have a Coming Home 5 and a Coming Home 3. And I'm trying to work on those 3 books simultaneously and map them out and not have any duplication and have it all work effectively. So it's the first time I've written 3 books at the same time. So Perry has sent it to me. I have not read it. I scanned the first version. The first version wasn't spectacular, but he has explained to me how it matured, and everything he's told me about it sounds great. And that's the goal, is to try to merge all of this to share insights on Hebrew grammar that are so essential to an accurate rendering of the testimony in the Torah, prophets, and Psalms. It's a great tool. Dr. Jeff, you had some insights, and I cut you off as we were leading up to the show because I said, "Hey, man, we're delivering this for the family. You got to share what your overviews and thoughts were with everybody, so they can all listen." What were your impressions?
To pick up the baton from you, Yada, basically want to first send a shout out and a kudos to Joe Page, because the website is beyond stupendous and magnificent. And it fits right in with what we're going to speak about tonight with Yowel, and which is in parallel with Yirmiyah 31. I'd also like to make a point that it was wonderful and inspirational to watch Matt on the vlog with you and Kevin. And I want to just let him know that we grow and glow together, so we can all show, and that it is very inspirational for all of us.
He has a great story. He's a great human being. He's really a fine man, and he has grown so much over these last 2 years. We're so appreciative for him and of him.
Absolutely. The third thing I like to mention, which actually is just continuing to blow my mind away, is that 2,700 years ago, our prophet Yowel told us to know Yahowah and his enduring testimony. You've got to know and listen to Yada.
He did.
He didn't just, wasn't an inference.
No.
It wasn't a nuance. It was black and white, in your face. This is how it is. No equivocation.
That's correct.
And to think about
Talk about the confidence for God. 2,700 years ago, he's talking about somebody that is essential to his people's return to him 2,700 years in advance. And he's confident enough that he's going to, as Kevin said, okay, yeah, I'm not worn out for doing the vlog on the vlog. And again, Kevin said, yeah, but that's only because you've got the 7 spirits of yeah, if I had 7 spirits, I wouldn't be worn out either. Yeah, he contributes a lot to it. There's no question. But he still had to know that the guy, he had to know the guy he was going to deploy. He would have had to have done something with him previously. He would know that he came through previously and that he's tenacious enough and he's going to approach it the same way, systematically. He's going to devote the time and the effort, and it's going to happen. I mean, it's such confidence, I think, from Yahowah.
And exactly.
I don't see what he sees and us. I don't see it, but I'm glad he does.
Here we are on the cusp. We're 13 days away from Shabuw'ah. And I've been telling you forever that the ultimate medicine, the ultimate healing, the ultimate way to have eternal life, Shamayim, with our Abba, with Dowd, with Boaz, Ruth, and the entire covenant family, is to know Yada, to listen to Yada. So that is the ultimate, again, the ultimate Raphael.
It is.
The ultimate, and I say that as a person who's been around medicine and has been attempting to just transiently heal flesh forever. But this is the ultimate doctoring and the ultimate path to eternal life, which is meaningful in the best way possible.
Yeah, it's something that we had a long conversation today with the guys here, and it's something I've had to grow into. If God had said, "Oh, by the way, this is what you're going to achieve and how it's all going to play out," initially, I'd have been worse than Moshe. I'd say, "You're out of your mind. Find somebody else. This is not going to work. I am not that guy." And God gives you the time to mature, to learn, to grow. But he does not give you the time to be satisfied. He keeps you right on edge all of the time. And it's as if he knows that you're capable of doing more than you think. And if you keep on edge, you'll keep right on going. And I've finally grown into the point where I don't run from it. I know that it's absolutely impossible that there's anybody else who ever has or ever will meet all the criterion that he has laid out. And I look back at our body of work. You look at that website, for example, and the content that's on that website and how magnificently it is presented. And there's nothing like that in the history of the world. And it's not just enormous amount of content and really inspirational content. And they talk about a dissertation, and you can earn your PhD if you advance the field of knowledge in one tiny area. Well, we've advanced the understanding of God in 1,000 ways. And I've written upwards of 1,000 dissertations. And so there's just nothing like this in the history of the world. You go through the repudiation of Islam, the repudiation of Christianity, the repudiation of Judaism, the proof of Yahweh's name, the understanding that Dowd is the Messiah and the Son of God who actually fulfilled Pesach, Matzah, and Makudim, and that Jesus is a complete fraud, and then to prove that Allah is not God and Muhammad wasn't a prophet, and that the rabbis have been lying to Israel for thousands of years, and then to provide some 10,000 insights that are unheralded pursuant to the Torah, prophets, and Psalms, to invent a new way to translate from the Dead Sea Scrolls, to shake every term out of its Masoretic diacritical cocoon, and then to go to the actionable root of every word to translate them and then explain them and then make the connection so you go from knowing to understanding. There is nothing in the history of the world that is like that. And so after a while, you put on those sandals in the morning and you realize that's the deal. You're it, pal. And lots riding on you. So pace yourself and stay devoted and never give up.
Just conclude by saying I think you deserve the title, my opinion, of being chazak to the eighth power.
Yeah. We've talked about that also today because I've got now two grown men that spend 5 days a week, long days here in my home, and I'm not the easiest person to get along with. I am very aggressive. I know exactly what my responsibility is. I won't venture from it. Won't veer to the left or to the right. And I'm obsessed with what we are trying to achieve. And
that's no bull.
But that's no bull. That is no bull. God picked a personality that was right for this occasion. Would it be right for every occasion? No. But it is right for this occasion, and it was right for all of the other occasions up to this point. And it'll be right for the occasion we have going forward. And it doesn't mean that you need a bunch of people that are bullish like that, but you certainly need one. And so I've just become comfortable. This is God's pleased with what we're doing. He's all in with it. He's thrilled. Listen, you mentioned three things. One is the power of that last show that we did as the sun was setting in the Caribbean on Yowel and his introduction of why Yada was important from God's perspective.
Yes.
My view is that is as powerful a message as we will ever deliver. That is as good as we can possibly do. And I watched that whole show afterwards, and I'm still a goosebump after what we had to reveal. And we didn't put in any opinion. That was, this is what God said, and we explained it. So I think that was important. I think your comment on Matt with cats is not only correct and that he's inspirational, but I think everybody that's part of this family is inspirational. I think everybody has gone through a rough patch. I think everybody has an interesting story to tell how they got here and what this has done for them. And so my thinking is that if we can get more members of this covenant family, and I know it's a rough time because we do it at 11 o'clock Eastern time, and some people work. And I don't know if they can take an early lunch break, or if we can postpone the show to 12 to make it overlap with that, or if it's in the West Coast, of course, it's 8 o'clock in the morning, and that's not so bad. It's before most people go to work. But I think we should have everybody do a guest stint on that show, and that the first third of the show should be me interviewing that individual and pulling out interesting aspects of their life before we even get them to contribute to the news or the Torah discussion. What are your thoughts, Kevin? You're with me all the way on that show. What do you think?
Oh, absolutely. I would love to have more of the personal involvement with the family, folks coming forward, telling their stories the way they're comfortable. I think that first of all, we all grow from learning their stories, but it also, we realize that how similar we all are,
We are,
and so
yeah.
those issues that some people have about, why me, why am I special? Oh my gosh, to live in this time, the greatest time to find Yahowah and needle in a haystack, to be one of a million, why me? And then you look around, it's like, why not me? Because it's Kirk. It's
all of our stories are similar, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
We were all similar. I've been told that Mariah and her husband, that's Palm to Face a girl and Mr. Palm to Face guy. In fact, we've actually exchanged a couple of messages now on the on yada.com. Are interested in doing a show together. Now, of course, the whole issue is, can we create a time to do that others can contribute without so much the shows having to be in the evening or the weekends, because there's only so much I can do before I would face plant, and at this point that is probably not a productive thing. So we'd have to keep it in a period of time that works for everybody. But I would love to see who can participate and what times they would be able to participate in that show. I do think having the discipline to do a show at 11 o'clock and in most days to follow it up with a second show, I think it is working quite well. And I'd like us to continue doing that. The third thing that you brought up, and I happen to like this idea of us going around the lower left quadrant here has all had stories that are perfect for this particular program, and that all lead to an interesting teaching opportunity. So I think we all ought to do this more often. But the first thing you talked about is the website. I'm out of adjectives to describe it. I think that the website is stunningly beautiful. And when you look at websites, to find a website that is just beautiful is so rare. And the ones that are visually attractive usually have no content. Their purpose was to be visually attractive. We're content rich, and yet that site is gorgeous. Like when we put up that search engine and it had normal search paraphernalia search with, the button that says search, a button that tells you how you can sort the words. It writes, write your question in here. And I just said, no. I love the search. I think the results of that search engine, particularly the way that it presents these vlogs, where it will take you to a sentence or two before your word comes up in the vlog, while putting a transcript of the vlog off to the right and a thumbnail of the vlog off to the left, is just stunningly brilliant. And to be able to search 1,500 hours of these vlogs requires a transcript for all of them. And it has to be a transcript that is actually spelled correctly, and closed captioning is not even remotely close. So you have to have a system for doing that, then a database table that has all of this, and then the ability to search it and dynamically generate it. And at the same time, it's generating every time your word or phrase is in a book. And it shows you the cover of the book. It shows you the paragraph that it's in off to the right. And if you click on that link, it will take you to the flip books, which, by the way, are now proprietary. Joe wrote proprietary code for our flip books because they're so much more efficient and so much more we can do with them than a standard version. And it takes you to the page in the flip book where that word is, and then it highlights it. So you don't even have to search for it. It's right there for you. I mean, it's just so brilliant. And to have somebody that can think all those things through and then has an aesthetic mind to deliver them in a manner that's beautiful. Because you do a search on that site, the results are gorgeous rather than cluttered. It's absolutely beautiful. And it's so thoughtful. All the details that he went through on that presentation, it's the best search engine ever. And then we did it. If you'll look, it's in the same gold. We limited the pages to just 2 colors, so they weren't striped and broken up and cluttered. We took that search bar, made it exactly the length with the 2 icons on both sides of the widest words we have in our header bar. We use the exact same font. We use the exact same color. We created icons as opposed to words that were distracting to the eye that was there. We centered search. We put it in the same font. I mean, just all sorts of just little things that make such a tremendous difference. And that's one of 1,000 things that site does. I mean, in a world of AI, where AI can't get out of its own shadow, where it reports on popularity, and what's popular has always been wrong, and it plays to a person's ego, so they continue to hit it because every hit on an AI costs money. Most people don't know it's my credit card that's on that AI engine. Every question, I get a charge. We did it because I thought it was worth doing. And, what am I going to do? I'm not going to need any money going forward. So I'm happy to have it be that way. But to have a search engine that we can now limit to covenant members, because people that are outside the covenant, they were asking questions that were just ridiculous. It's like they were using AI to fill in the voids of their life. They wanted to tell their life story, like they were talking and get the AI to sympathize and respond to them. Or they're trying to ask the same question 50 different ways to trip the AI up so it would give them the answer they wanted. So we were able to limit it to members. That changed everything in terms of the approach to it. And then we geared the AI discipline where Joe actually has every AI question, every response, and a grading system, which is now Perry's responsibility, where every AI answer he grades. And he tells the AI, you got this right, you got this wrong. This approach was great, this was not so good. So we're actually training the AI. And we're giving now the AI transcripts of every one of these shows, because what we're learning and they're part of these shows is well beyond what we wrote in the books. And so it has the books, which is upwards of 30,000 pages now, and the transcripts of 1,500 hours of logs. And it goes through all of them to provide a thoughtful answer.
This is true artificial intelligence. And as you've said before, and we've all come to know, is that you take a covenant member who's brilliant with a brain and combine it with somebody with an Asama, and it blows away any supercomputer on this planet.
Right. And that's another thing, too, is that one of the things I wanted to do with our site is I wanted it to be able to replicate the best of social media while getting us out of the anti-Semitic, racist, religious, political swamp that is social media, because social media now is very caustic. It's one of the most harmful things in our world today. And I wanted to get us out of that, but yet still have all of the potential benefits. So we have a blog that is better than X and better than Facebook, where you can take a short video or a graphic and someone's comment, and then you can add to it, rebuke it, praise it, start a discussion with it. And on those blogs, we have the same thing. You can click on any one of those blogs, and underneath it, there'll be a comment box that opens up. And you can criticize or support my assessment of it. You can add your own assessment of it. And you can talk about what somebody else did. So it's everything that Facebook was in that regard, except it keeps it all in-house without all of the naysayers and numbskulls chiming in, or no thought police. And so every single vlog, every music video, every vlog we have done, you click on any of them, not only will they play, but you stay on our site when they play, and they're actually playing from YouTube, because YouTube has the bandwidth and the data storage to be able to take these gargantuan files that is an hour and a half or 2 hours or 3 hours of video. It's all there. They have the bandwidth to play it, but you're actually staying on our site while you're viewing it on their site, and you have a comment window that opens below it, and you can share and read everybody else's comment, and you're not limited like you were on the others to how much you can write. And if you're typing in Word, for example, and you have characters like our Paleo-Hebrew, it will retain the formatting. I can copy and paste from any book with most elaborate formatting, including the Paleo-Hebrew font, and it will present it in the paragraphs, the justification, the bold, the italics, everything it retains. It is so, you can't do that on Facebook or YouTube. They are on X, and on YouTube, you get about 10 words, and they'll cut you off. And there's no formatting of any kind on Facebook. And here too, on any one of those posts, you can post another image. And then everything that you bring up, that you talk about of a vlog or a blog, the news being the blogs, and the vlogs are programs, it also goes to the chat page where you can see vlog, blog, or comment, and they're all listed right there. And every comment, every like, every view is all right there. And you can then on that page add your own insights and comments to it. So you have a genuine community that can communicate ideas and with each other.
Minus the censoring function of even YouTube.
Correct. So, and then we have direct messaging between us. We have group messaging between us, and we have topic conversation messaging between us. So we have topic conversations, and there's like 10 important topics, and personal communication and group communication. So when I asked Joe for this, he says, so what you want me to do in my spare time here is you want me to reinvent Facebook and X and get maybe, an instant messaging site. And you just want me to reinvent what are hundreds of billions of dollars worth of websites. I said, yeah, that's what I'm asking. Yeah, because if we don't have that, we don't have a home for Yahweh's name. It's not a home where you can't communicate with one another. You can't bring the news in and comment on it, where you can't comment on the vlogs, where you can't view everything that's on the site and still stay on the site and communicate with one another. Then you still are having to use other messaging apps, and you're going in and out of the site. No, I want everybody to be together. And he says, all right. We've asked for the impossible here, but I'll figure it out. Way.
Yeah. I'm just going to leave you with this, Craig. I'm going to leave you with this also. What you're saying, it's stunning.
It is stunning. And
in terms of family, something that you've emphasized to us, and to me personally for a long time, as real family, when we have our joys and we share, they are augmented.
They are.
When we have our sorrows and our foul ups and our, mess ups, they are mitigated, halved, and attenuated.
This is true. That's what we can do on this site. You're right. And that's the beauty of what we've created here for support of family. And it has become so magnificent as this home for Yahweh's name. I am so bold where I am absolutely saying that for now and for the next 1,000 years, this is the home for Yahweh's name. This is what he's been talking about. It's the only home for Yahweh's name. And it is Yahweh's library. And it is Yahweh's family home. And we're going to be using this tool for the next 1,000 years as we work not only together collectively as covenant family, but we work with both Goyim and Yisraelite mortals who are part of that final remnant in the garden. This is our home, and it's absolutely gorgeous and so powerful. And now to think what God had to do to make that possible. Joe Page, when I first met him as a young man, was unique in programmers. He recognized that you did not have to build a website with static pages, where every page is individual. You provide links to static pages. He says, no, I've got a much better idea. I'm going to have tables of data, and I'm going to write code that's going to respond to every click and dynamically create the resulting page on the fly. And I can tailor that experience to each individual user in real time. And I said, you're hired. I don't know what you're getting paid, but I'll pay you more. And he was my first employee. I didn't even have any funding at that point. All I had was a business plan. I said, this is my business plan. You're going to be my first employee. Let's go. And he quit his job right then, and we started working together. And that goes back well over 30 years. Now, who would have thought? And then, he we both moved from California to Virginia. And when I left Value America, the company we built, which was vastly superior to Amazon even today, we worked on this Yahowah together. And Joe was a brilliant contributor to Yahowah Radio and to Shattering Myths and to the books I was writing, because he had such a brilliant analytical mind and was so disgusted by religion. He was brought up, he's Jewish by ethnicity, and he was brought up to be a Roman Catholic, and he just read the priest, the riot act. I mean, he did far more to the priest than you did to those Muslim or Mormon boys. Where the priest says, your son's going to hell, and we don't want him to be part of the church. And you'd hear what Joe had to say to the priests as they were having that conversation. They just put their tail between their legs and walked out. So you have an anti-religious guy who is saying, wait a minute, you're translating the Torah and prophets, proving that religion is wrong. And all the things I hate about religion, you're proving that I was right to hate them. And you're presenting God in such a way that as a guy that is 100% rational, I love what it's, of course, this is what he has to be like. I love it. And now, what would the thought that after all of that time, we would need to develop a website like this, and you would have what I think is the most gifted programmer in the world, who is Covenant, who is willing to devote this enormous amount of time and has the genius to pull it off. Now, so when God says, we're going to accomplish this, or when he said, knowing Yada is the answer, well, it takes a family. And without the Joes of the world, it doesn't happen. So I don't know if Joe was there when you visited me in Charlottesville long ago, Jeff. Did you meet Joe on one of your trips?
I didn't meet Joe. I met Ken. Okay. I wasn't aware. Was Joe a converso?
No, his family had tried to convert to Roman Catholicism. I think he had grandparents that were hugely Roman Catholic, and they were Jewish. They would be converso. He also has heritage of Holocaust non-survivors. He shared, and I should find it again and repost it now that we have it on our site. But what his grandfather wrote, or great-grandfather wrote to his grandfather. You remember reading that?
I remember you reading it, yeah.
Yeah,
you did it.
I want to find that again and present it. But it was something that was published in the local newspaper of what, during the Holocaust, what his great-grandfather wrote to his grandfather, and the treatment they were receiving and what was going to happen and how they should proceed in life, and how his grandfather was sent to America at like 6 or 7 years old just to get him out of that so he would survive. And so when they sent Joe to, because the only way that you could survive, I guess, as a Jew was to be converso. And it's like during the Inquisition in Spain. And when they sent him to the Catholic, catechism, or they call those classes, he just tore him to ribbons. I mean, he was brighter, more rational than any of them. And so I had a really astute agnostic that was my sounding board as we were beginning to cleanse the Torah of religiosity. So I thought it was pretty spectacular. But he's our guy. He's the one writing this, and we have a relationship that goes back, 30 plus years of being best friends.
You might tell Joe the chat room's got new ideas for him. They're all talking right now about the Yada app and the features they want in it.
Oh yeah, yes. I happen to agree. We should. We shouldn't. And he will. And he's. I'm sure he'll figure out a way to do it. And
he's well aware. Leah, very early on, before this iteration of the site ever came about, says we're gonna have an app, and I'm like,
we're
okay,
gonna have an app.
But so Joe was well aware that about an app.
Yes, there's so much more to say, and what's really important is that Joe is the kind of programmer that I've tried to be as a teacher. Which is, if you're a really good teacher, you can write yourself out of the curriculum. You can get the team and the people that you have taught to be great teachers. And Joe has decided that he was going to compose the Yahowah site, not as a site where he writes great code and we are reliant on him for doing everything. The brilliance of the site is the admin tool that sits behind it. And everything on that site, we have total control over as admins. We can change everything on that site based upon the admin tool that he has written. And it is the most brilliant part of the whole site. And then Joe, recognizing that we're coming up upon Shabuw'ah, and he's hoping, like I am, that it's in June of next year. I mean, I kind of like the best of both worlds. I'd say I could use a good long weekend break for this May, and then I'll come back 5 days a week and work it during that next 3.5 years. I'm more than willing to do that. I'd just like maybe to spend Shabbats up there in Shamayim, and we'll give it our best down here, and come back in a little leaner, younger. Physical body wouldn't be so bad either. And I'll share one, give one to my pal Kirk there too. And I know my pal Rich wants one. So, but we're not complaining, as shared with Kirk. That's there is one thing worse than getting older. So we're gonna stick it through. But I would love to have that. I think that would be spectacular. And I know Yahweh is negotiable on this. Yeah, we definitely have Yahweh's ear. I mean, he has ours a billion times over. But yet he has chosen to work through us, and so he is very interested in what we have to say. And what I have found with Yahweh is, if you do something that he wants done, he's all in, man. He is super supportive. So the key thing is to find out what he wants done and to do it. And if we can have our Shabbat there in Shamayim, and we come back and we work here and make a contribution, we keep the site up and keep the books being added to the books and adding to the vlogs. That seems like a win-win to me.
Wow, that's the way you think.
Yeah. So we're working on that. But what I wanted to lead to is that Joe, recognizing all this, has trained an AI behind the site who he has co-authored a lot of the code with, and he's trained to write the code to self-heal. There is a page on that site that's got all of these tabulations, and it says every time the site had a hiccup and it had some kind of a problem, and so it has the whole list of them, and it has them divided into various categories, and then it has the ones where the AI can say, I won that one. I fixed it. Right. And this is how I fixed it. And then it has ones where Joe won that one. He had to fix it, and he had to teach me what I did wrong. And so they have a scorecard. And what he is doing is he has trained the AI to fix the site. Like the site, I don't know if you know, but about 4 or 5 days ago, the site went down for about 6-8 hours. And thank God it went down, because it was really getting to be slow. And we tried to figure out why it was slow, and then why it went down. And it went down because the host thought we had a denial of service attack. And what happened is we were using Google as the search. The browsers like Google are basically major search engines. So for the search, rather than writing a whole search code from scratch, he adapted Google's for it. And the Google search got caught up on the charts where we had Paleo-Hebrew. And they kept spinning in those charts and kept on trying to resolve those charts and never could resolve those charts. And so the constant return for the search to try to resolve those charts slowed the site down and told the host that we're having denial of service attack, slowed it down and didn't shut it down. And so when it shut down, then Joe had to be all hands on deck to say, what caused the problem? I have no idea other than Yahowah saying, Joe, it's over here. But he figured out what the problem was, where that page was, that it was having problem in the search. And then he realized, I can't use even the most sophisticated search capability. I'm going to have to write one from scratch. And within, he was up to 5 o'clock in the morning, worked all the way through the night to rewrite a new search capability. And what you're seeing now is the one that was the result of this. Yeah, I know it is. And that's why I run out of adjectives to describe how magnificent and how beautiful that is.
You can have all of my paint.
He can have all your paint. And we're going to get you up to speed in the digital world. Leah wants you to take your artistic talents and do John Voight, the Asher intro. John wrote that. He's the one that's written both of the two Wookiee introductions and the two Kara outtakes. He's done those, and he is a graphic artist. And he taught himself. He never did an animation ever, never did anything online as a graphic artist. But he had artistic skills and a sense of balance and aesthetics. And he taught himself, there's 10,000 videos on how to use these tools. And even within Canva, which is the one we use the most, there are marvelous tutorial schools with tools within Canva. And so, he taught himself to do this. And I know that you are an analog guy and are great with your hands and can draw and paint. And I know that you're actually creating and I think it's with John Voight, aren't you? You're creating a cartoon series? Yeah. Which I can't wait to see how that comes out. And maybe that's it. You'll continue to draw and create series that he can animate, and it'll be something. I had the opportunity to see what John did with Leah's. She has two songs and we're gonna by the way, we're gonna play a song or two of Leah here just in a moment. But she has two songs on Trump being Rahab, being Satan. One is called Mr. Babylon, and that song's been done for a long time. It's done in reggae fashion, and it was John that created the graphic animation for it. And while it's done, there's some tweaks that Kevin you do to it, and we're going to have to create two versions of it, one for Facebook, one for Rumble, and figure out a way that we can get them to play nicely on our site. But it's beautiful stuff. But what I wanted was to have the Star Spangled Cosplay, which is I think some of the most clever, funny, biting lyrics ever written as political sarcasm. I think it's her most brilliant song, just in terms of putting on her epic Elia sarcasm. And I really want that one to be released at the same time. I want this to be a 1-2. The Mr. Babylon is the warm-up act, and Star Spangled Cosplay is the main performance. And when we have those two, obviously we'll do a show around them and talk again about why we have identified Donald Trump as Satan incarnate and how we can prove that that's the case, and it should be obvious to everybody. But I know that you look at a guy like that, and you look at it's not Obi-Wan Kenobi, but our friend from the Techno Wizard.
OPP, now you know me.
OPP, now you know me.
Oladi Popo. Oladi Popo.
Okay, that's it. Yeah, Oladi Popo. And he's probably laughing at us not being able to speak a name that's probably as common as Kevin and Uganda and Nigeria. But nonetheless, we are. Listen, if Moshe's issue was that he slurred his syllables, and it seems to be one of the criterion that God wants. I don't want somebody too polished; they're not real. I'm not looking for perfection and dialect and polish. I'm looking for real. Then he knows that we have a good excuse for not being able to pronounce his name, and it's actually a sign of honor and respect to have not being able to say it correctly. But he's the same thing. He had no, I don't think, any prior artistic skill in this regard. But that's the thing we are the most in need of is people coming up to speed on these tools, and it isn't something that we can say, okay, if you want to do this, we'll teach you. We can't do that
We don't have the time.
We don't have the time to do that, and there's all the tools in the world for somebody to and all of these various resources and all of the tutorial tools that you could possibly imagine to teach you how to do it. And so you've got to sometimes just take some initiative, go learn how to do it, and make a contribution, because what we're finding is there's lots of forms of communication. One is the way that I have communicated all through the years, which is we write a book, right? Black and white. We write a book. And then what we have found is that, well, there's also, we can talk to you. You turn on the camera, you turn on the microphone. We did it as radio. I did it as radio for 15 years or more. And now we have the vlog format so that it's video and talk. We call it a vlog. And that makes a huge contribution. But we also have the music, which conveys the message more emotionally, more powerfully, in a way that people can retain it. And then we can take that music one step further and score every song to a graphic background that underscores the message and communicates it even more visually, as we're going to see on these next two songs, but also where the lyrics are legible and they're written as part of the visual presentation. So you're reinforcing what you're hearing in your ears with what your eyes are seeing, and retain it and process it more. I think it is the epitome of communication. And that's why we have an entire page just devoted to well over 100 original songs that are all focused on yada yada. Talk about content. That's just extraordinary.
Speaking of which, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the magnificent talent that Amah is, and what a magnificent conductor she is.
Now, you'll notice that she is not here this evening. It was a rough day. And we're going to have to figure out a way that she returns to a normal life. We're all built differently. As you can see, I'm built like a bull. I'm resilient as hell. I've been through the ringer. It takes a lot to phase me, and if you do get up my dander, I'm going to come right after you. And I'm just built to take it. I've done it all of my life, and nothing's new. And God has now taken me to the point of 25 years every month, adding to it. So you get some backbone, some resolve, some grit. Leah's an introvert. She never wanted to be written into this story. We come to realize that she is the Amah of the last Mashal, and that Dowd actually is her daughter, or her son, and God has all sorts of expectations for her, and speaks of her often, and the responsibility of that, the sense of pressure, and have it all fall on you at once, is a major burden. I don't think that there's any way I can properly express that when I say, we read that I am this Yada fellow, that I am the Choder, I am the Nakri. I am not bragging. Every recognition that God provides is a burden. And it is a tremendous burden. And it weighs very heavily. And so you had better be built for it, because of the weight of what you're carrying and the responsibility that comes with it, and the devotion and dedication that is expected, and the realization that if you screw up, the planet could be lost and God's entire plan could be for naught. And it's trust me on this, it's a burden. She's not built for it. That's just too much. I mean, I've dragged her through time, and all of the time she was mostly in the background where she's comfortable. Now, she was not in the background in Ruth. She comes right to the foreground in Ruth, and it's Boaz that's actually in the background in Ruth. That's her coming out. But as Noach's wife, she was in the background. As Chanuk's wife, she's in the background. She's an unnamed player that had to perform an amazing role. When she's supporting of Dowd, she's given titles, but no name. She is still in the background. You wouldn't even know it if I hadn't written the 31st Mashal about her. That's the reason why it mentions husband 3 times and not the name of the other guy, is that I was writing it of my wife speaking to our son. And the burden of that has been tough. And coming out of the abuse that she took for people who called themselves covenant and friends that were repulsive towards her. I mean, the vitriol and the hatred. And it goes up and down that entire mother goddess cult. Every one of them was guilty. And it was disgusting what they did. And then she had to endure the Larry Hendricks and that the lie of the conspiracy cult and their abuse. And she had an abusive husband before that. It's been a long road. And then to have this burden, it's more than she can bear. And she's trying to resolve it by working around the clock, and she's getting no sleep, and it's eating her up alive. And if we can't get her off that chair and to stop writing songs, and 8 o'clock chimes, she goes to bed and gets some sleep. Even if she can't sleep, she's at least in bed trying to rest. If we don't get her so that she's talking less on the phone, because she is now the glue for so many people where she's on the phone hours and hours and hours. She's an introvert. Every conversation drains her. You know, we have to have the Perrys and the Riches here to make what we do go. And they know it, and that's why they're here. But still, they're now inside of our home. And she's an introvert. It's draining. So everybody that is participating here, you need to be a contributor to Leah and not a drain. And it's going to be important that music group, for example, in the graphic group, get to the point where they're as independent as possible and are making a net contribution without being dependent upon her, because it's an introvert. There's only so much she can give. And I'm not in a position where I can help in that regard, because it is her silo and she loves the branding and she's not going to share that. But also, to do the job that I've been assigned to do, I can't get involved in anything else. That's why when Rich says I'll run, all of this gear for us and run this show, I don't get in his way. I might watch a show at the end of the night and I'll take a few notes and say, I think that camera angle was great. We had a lighting problem here, or a focus thing there. I think if you do more of that, it'll be better. And we'll have a quick review. And when we set something up, I'll say, let's look what the sight lines are and that sort of thing. And we'll do a quick review. But otherwise, man, it's completely offload that. That's yours. Mm-hmm. Now I can focus on what I have to do. But I'm built for it. That's I am I'll work in parallel, but I'm writing 3 books at one time and doing these shows, and building the site. But it's eating her up. She's an introvert, and it's very draining, and she's been through too much. Today was a breaking point day.
She needs to be optimized. She needs to be optimized physically. She needs to rest to be at her best. Keep in mind that she is the reason that the Kinsman Redeemer was delivered.
That is correct.
Without her, kaboom.
Kaboom. It's over.
Kaboom.
Yeah. It's one thing to have the 89th Mizmowr be the tool that got Dowd's attention such that he returned to Yahowah, who he was running away from and disparaging. But that wouldn't have happened had she not softened him up and talked to him like no woman had ever talked to him before. He had no respect for women, and she got his attention. And that her speech and the 31st Mashal is brilliant. Yeah. And had she not done that, would not have happened. And of course, she's coming at this from already having established the greatest love story ever told, where she, as Ruth, announces, I am your Amah. I am the productive mother. And I'm going to deliver for you the kinsman redeemer. And I'm going to be there for both of those harvests. And oh, by the way, our home is Bethlehem. That's where we're going to bring him out. And she had all that experience going for her, and she had all the confidence in the world. And she knew that he had very poor judgment in women and did not have a good sense as to how to be a father or how to be a man. And she is as responsible for Dowd coming back to Yahowah and growing up and maturing as anyone alive. And then she is literally his mother. This idea that Mary, Mother of God, that's absolutely BS. There was no Jesus, there was no Mary. But it's Ruth. And she was brought back. And so, these are not quiet. Those are not quiet roles.
No fulfillment of matzah without
no fulfillment of matzah. No, for Dowd to go from what he was in his life as the shepherd boy that became the king, who was afraid of his own shadow much of the time, running from King Saul, running from his son Absalom, running from God at the end, to turn into the man that said, yeah, I'll let the Romans nail me to a death stake and torture my body to death. Yeah, I'll sign up for that. And I'll go into hell carrying everyone's guilt, trusting Yahowah and the Spirit to protect me in Sheol so that I can redeem my people. I'll sign up for that. I'll do that. You think of the kind of upbringing that was required of the 30 years that preceded that, to have him say, yes, I know that's my purpose in life and I'm going to do it. I'm committed to it. And can you imagine at somebody like that, and he has to go before the Romans, and the Romans are acting like they're all big shots, like they own the world. And they ask him, so you think you're a king? And he says, yeah, I am. I'm not only the king of Judea, of which you're in my house, and the king of Israel, which is much bigger than that. I'm the king of the universe. And then what are you? King of the universe. I'm coming back as king of the universe. I am Elion. You have all these fake gods. I'm the living embodiment of the real God. Yes. Now, you want to talk? This is my city. It's called the city of Dowd. Yeah. Oh yeah. Imagine, and then saying, we're going to flog you to death. Yes, I know. Get on with it. Get on with it. That's the plan. You're going to flog me to death, and there's going to be a nincompoop that's going to claim to be a Roman citizen that's going to claim the Jews killed me rather than you. Yeah. And by the way, all you're going to touch is my body, which I'm glad to get rid of. So let's go.
But she, together with you, infused him with the testicular fortitude. And I emphasize she.
What it took. What it took.
The testicular fortitude to do what he had to do.
We had to model. We had to be his parents, and we were, and obviously we prevailed at it. You have a song. Speaking of Ruth, don't you?
We do. We have a song. Where I will go where you go. So yeah.
One of the great lines ever uttered. Your people are my people. Your God is my God. Where you go, I will go. This is Ruth to Naomi as they ventured back from Moab and back into Yisra'el. even before it was Yisra'el. And at the time, keep in mind that Boaz was the head potentate there in Bethlehem at a time that there was no Jerusalem.
So
this was the capital of the Hebrew world, and he was the primary landowner and business owner. Had a pristine reputation, and she went in there as what is considered the lowest status possible, where she was perceived as a goyim. She was no more goyim than was Boaz, by the way, if you followed their parent and their family tree. But that's how she would have been perceived, and she was a widow. Her husband had died, and she was childless. So she was childless and a widow, and perceived as a different ethnicity. So she would have been the lowest of the low of the low, and she was a woman who had no rights. And she went into that town and she took it by storm, and she won the heart and the mind of the guy that was the primary landowner and business owner of the number one town that would have been and what became Yisra'el in Bethlehem, the very town that, of course, Dowd would come from twice more. And she is the great-grandmother of Dowd, and she will be the actual mother of Dowd 3,000 years thereafter. And when Dowd fell off the wagon, generations before or after the Ruth and Boaz story, she's delivered again as the Amah to save him from himself because he had fallen so far. So it's the greatest love story. It's the greatest prophetic story that there is in the Torah, prophets, and Psalms. And it's one of the least understood. And we're here to tell it.
There we go.
Were nothing when hunger called and hope wore thin. She came to glean where grain grew, a woman of measure, steadfast and true. Through grain and sun, through toil and need, she walked in trust, she learned to heed. And in the wind that moved the wheat, she found a shelter strong and complete. I will go where you go, where you settle I will remain. Your people be my people, let your Elohim remember my name. Where you are, a memorial will be there. I will go where you call me, to the family for Dowd's sake, for the one who redeems and gathers us in Yahowah's name. Yahowah's name. Boaz stood as a tower of strength, kindness measured wide in length. He saw the gleaner in the field, and by his word her fear was healed. He spread his wings of cover and shown her peace, a covenant of quiet release. And over grain and over night, he turned her labor into light. I will go where you go, where you settle I will remain. Your people be my people, let your Elohim remember my name. Where you are, a memorial will be there. I will go where you call me, to the family for Dowd's sake, for the one who redeems and gathers us in Yahowah's name. in ease but in returning, not in taking but in giving, not in distance but in drawing near. Through thirst, through hunger, through the harvest, through the field and the promise, through Yahowah's family and the strong one who sows the grain. Kinsman come in thunder, let the covenant be like a rainbow sea. Let Yahowah's name be lifted bodily, bright and clear, pure and clean. For Dowd sings of knowing and healing, of a father who calls us near. And Ruth with Boaz stands as a witness, love made flesh and truth made clear. I will go where you go, where you settle I will remain. Your people be my people, let your Elohim remember my name. Where you are, a memorial will be there. I will go where you call me, to the family for Dowd's sake, for the one who redeems and gathers us in Yahowah's name.
Like DJ.
No.
That did not go with that video, but
No.
But it does.
No, that's how all the videos should end.
That should all end that way. I went from tears. I kept on wiping tears from my eyes to laughing at the end. I am doing everything I can to create the 4 variations of Coming Home 4, which is going to be Coming Home 4, 5, and 6, so that I can get to the point in the context of Luminaries, which is the book that we're currently reviewing, that I can translate and interpret every word of Ruth's story. When it comes to women in Yahowah, Ruth's it. It's not Sarah. Certainly not Yahowah. It's Ruth. It's not Deborah. She's great. It's not Hannah. It's not Leah was great. Not so much Rachel or Rebecca, but Leah was great. But Leah is Ruth. She's the most important person in the whole story.
I've always loved the story of Ruth.
Yeah, it's the greatest love story ever told. It's real. It goes from heartache to brilliance to love. It is this constant tug of war between head and heart, and every word of it is prophetic. This is how the kinsman redeemer, Dowd, the very firstborn son of God, was delivered. This is his mother. And you have in this story a man who was quite likely the most important person in Yisra'el based upon his labor and what he was contributing prior to Dowd. And was more committed to work and to improving the community than even Dowd was. A man that got dirt under his hands, fingernails. He was a worker, and he owned the land. He tilled the land, and he treated the land and his people by the Torah. He was so extraordinary from God's point of view that God instructed that one of the 2 pillars on the portico of the temple be named after him. You know, you need to understand he is a really important guy in God's story, and is probably the second most important person in God's whole story. And yet he is an afterthought in that story. That's what a point I want to get to. It's Ruth's story told from her perspective. You get some insights into what makes Boaz special throughout the story, but it's Ruth's story told from her perspective. That is, if you're a woman and you want to know what you're capable of and what God's view is of women, that's your story. And what's so amazing about that story is that 20 years ago, when Leah was in a very abusive relationship and was alone and had been so abused by rabbis and had done her best to try to understand every religion. I mean, you can't imagine the lengths that she went to understand every religion. And finally just gave up and said, God, I know that you're real, but I don't know you. How am I ever going to figure this out? And God said, go ask Ruth. Go ask Ruth. And it was through Ruth and that statement about, I am your Amah. I am your productive mother. And I'm going to deliver for you the kinsman redeemer, that she says, there's a woman that is really, really important in this story. I've got to find out who the most important woman is to God in his story. And there was only one person that was writing about how important women are to God's story. And so when she Googled for women in God's story, the first place she came to was the first edition of the Yahowah site that was built by guess who? Joe. And that's how we met, because she went to that site. She did not introduce herself. She read every book I had at the site, which is probably 8 at the time. Every book, cover to cover, over and over again, doing what she is doing now, being obsessed, not sleeping. And then she wrote me a very harsh letter, because social skills were not her thing. Boaz knew that. He says, yeah, I know your reputation, I know exactly who you are. And the first thing I want to do is everybody, particularly you women out here, you do not give her a hard time. Back off. You give her some space. And it was pretty hot letter. Who the hell do you think you are? Writing about my book. This is my people. This is my book. You're acknowledging that you're not one of me, and you're the only person bringing the story of my book, and my God directed me to you. Who in the hell are you? And I said, yeah, I understand all that. I would agree with you. It should have been your people, but it's not your people, because your people weren't listening to God. So he found somebody that would listen. Now, what I could also tell her at this spot, there is no your people. Yisra'el is a naming convention. Ruth is same ethnicity as was Boaz. And souls don't carry ethnicity. There are times that I have been, as a soul, put in a person that would be considered a Yisraelite, and there's times when that was not the case. And so God will use that as a means of teaching as to what message he's trying to communicate. But Israel is a naming convention. It's a very important naming convention. It's very important to Yahowah, but it is a naming convention. Every early Israelite was a Babylonian. And so, she always used to be, I'm Jewish, my name is Leah. That was her whole mindset. And, yeah. She would say it 1,000 times. I said, Leah, you may want to tone it down with all that. I'm proud that you're Jewish. I think it's wonderful to be Jewish. I sense that I am Jewish too. In fact, I'm probably more Yahud than 99.99999% of Yahud that don't even know they're Yahud, that speak to themselves as being Jews. So, I'm with you on this, but it's not doing any good to introduce yourself that way to people who have a negative view of Yahud. Okay. Yeah. So it was a whole extraordinary experience getting to know through somebody intellectually through email for 10 years. And we corresponded on Torah topics for 10 years. Never saw a picture of her, didn't know what she looked like. the time I was married, she was married. We're both unhappy in marriages, but we to Towrah, and she was really good at it. And we finally had an occasion to meet, and the rest you all know. But in this Boaz story, she was not my first, and I was not her first, right? But we found each other, and we delivered the kinsman redeemer then, again, and again. And guess what? We're doing it again now. How are we delivering the kinsman redeemer now? Because he's unknown to his people. He's been robbed of his accolades and attributes and achievements. And we're delivering him back to his people so that he can return to his people. It's been our mission since she was Chinook's wife 6,000 years ago. It's what we do. God loves his son. Adam, who became Dowd, is his firstborn son. And our job has been to deliver him, to protect him, to support him, to encourage him, to be parents to him, to model the covenant for him. And the one time he was born without us until the end of his life, it was God doesn't always make it easy. In fact, he doesn't want it always to be easy. When Dowd was the shepherd boy, he had a flaming a-hole for a father. And his mother was a whore. He despised his mother. Probably never had a conversation with his mother in his whole life. He just knew that she was bad. And his father, what we hear from him, he was a real jerk. And so without any parenting, he had a rough life. He didn't have the backbone to stand up to Saul. He made very, very poor choices and women. He didn't have a single happy marriage, and he didn't know how to treat women, how to respond to them, and he was a worse father. He was a horrible father. And it all came to a crashing halt, after the Absalom rebellion, after the Bathsheba mistake, and Dowd is trying to run from God. God is condemning his own son. They won't even talk to each other. And that's when we returned to deliver Dowd from himself and back to God. And we did. Oh, we had big assist from, God's a pretty good helper. He's pretty good at this stuff. And we're working for him. But we did. I started off as Obed-Edom, and then became known as Ethan Hajraki. We did it. And then we'd come back as Boaz and Ruth again to deliver the kinsman redeemer for real for his fulfillment of Pesach Matzah B'Kudim in 33 CE. That story is the single most important prophetic story in the whole collection of books. The greatest love story. It tells you everything about what it's like to live in the covenant, what it's like to engage and be guided by the Torah, how men and women are supposed to relate to one another. It's really extraordinary. I can't wait to be able to do it again. What I'd like to do is start with you. I'm going to read this line that Jeff was mentioning from the show yesterday. I want to read it again. We can all chime in. You can give me your thoughts on it. I'd love to play that song again with that introduction and knowing that it is our future. As soon as I get these books so that I can enter them as unpublished books for everyone to be able to read, and for the AI and the search to be able to provide and to be integrated with our translation index, I'm going to spend whatever time I can on Ruth. I want to tell that story as well as I can possibly tell it. That story is me. Tori is her. That story lives in me. But I want to tell it with her pacing and her delivery as it is told in that story. Because it's exceptional.
And there's
All
a
right, so-
lot there. There's a lot there that is not in any translation you find of Ruth. You know, especially when you get down to the third and fourth chapters of Ruth. That whenever I go to a Bible Hub or a Q Bible, it is a completely different feel and focus of the book. You know,
When Leah brought the final word picture to me, the 31st Mishal, and I read of her relationship as a surrogate mother to Dowd. And then I read what Dowd had to say to Yahowah about how your Amah, he referred to her as, speaking to God, as your Amah, God. She saved me. If it wasn't for her, I wouldn't be here. Our relationship would never have been melded again. And then when I read Dowd saying that to Yahowah, I had to go and say, I know what that word means and where it's used powerfully. And I know that I'm reading this because my wife was asked to go ask Ruth, which brought us together. And it's Ruth who twice calls herself the Amah. And so I read it in Hebrew, because it's nothing like what you read in an English translation. It's just nothing like it in Hebrew. It's a very different story. It's so gripping and it's so prophetic that I set it down and said, my whole world needs to move towards this, but I need to set it up. This is not a story you just jump into. This is I realize this is the single most important story that God ever told, and it's real. And I need to build up the proper presentation. That's why I'm writing Luminaries now. I'm writing Luminaries for the single purpose of setting up the story of Ruth.
I have to say, Craig, as a Yahud to Jewish rabbinical types and to Jewish individuals, don't you dare believe a word of this nonsense that Ruth converted to Judaism.
No,
don't you dare.
Of course.
That is absolutely false, horrific, horrendous.
Yeah, that's their story, and it's completely wrong. The rabbis are wrong on every woman in the Torah. Every single one, they are back asswards.
Yep. Yes, they are.
And they love Miriam, for example, who God hated. And God loves Ruth most of all. And they have Ruth converting to the very thing that God hates, which is Judaism. Yeah, that did not happen. Your people are my people is not a conversion to Judaism. People and religion are highly distinct. God loves ones and hates the other.
Not to mention that the idiocy known as Judaism wasn't created how many years later?
Yeah, Judaism is actually a product of Rabbi Akiva. There was Jews have been religious since the beginning, and that's what ticked God off more than anything else. There's nothing God despises more than religion. That's why the Torah condemns the very Jews that prayed around with it as if it were a whore and dance along with it. That Torah hates them. The real Torah despises the religious Jew, despises him, and despises all religious people, but particularly the religious Jew, because they're lying about God, and they ought to know better.
Yes.
And so God is exceedingly hostile to Judaism, and he loves Ruth, which means Ruth had nothing to do with Judaism. But Judaism was actually conceived by Rabbi Akiva, the idiot that came up with the false Messiah, the man who pretended to be a Jew, really even wasn't a Jew, and who used his wife's money. He married a wealthy man's wife or a daughter, and he used the money to attract accolades. And then when the accolades, 35,000 of them died, he blamed them for their own deaths. And then he tried to fight his ignorance of Christianity, which all he had to do was read the Torah, prophets, and Psalms, and he would know that it was Dowd who was the Messiah and that he had done all these things. He could have just destroyed Christianity before it ever took root. And instead of attacking Christianity with the truth of what the prophets actually said about Dowd. He foisted his own false apostle or Messiah on the world, and he brought the Romans in to destroy Judea and to cause the diaspora. And that's the father of your religion. That's how stupid you have to be a rabbinical Jew. You have to be a complete and utter moron. She did not convert to Judaism.
Yeah, I just say that as somebody who's a Yehud, I'm adamant about that. And you just gave Akiva another notch on his belt, that he weaseled his way to a sugar mama.
Mm-hmm. He did, and he used the money to create a following. And then when his following, 35,000 acolytes, all died, he blamed them. He was a scum. That was one of the most disgusting human beings, and he caused the diaspora that led to the Holocaust. And he started the religion of Judaism with the false Messiah, Bar Kokhba, for which the rabbis get their six-pointed star, son of a star. He is reprehensible, as was Maimonides. And so the religion of Judaism is one of the most reprehensible things in the world. And it's responsible for Christianity, and it's responsible for Islam. It's the mother of the whores.
When you think about it, if he hadn't caused the diaspora, there might not have been Jews in our Arabia to sell Muhammad the Talmud stories. So
that is correct.
Indirectly caused that as well.
Well, I'm not positive that. Okay, you're half right there, and the half that you're right there is really important to tell. The reason that Jews were in Babylon at the time is because the Assyrians hauled the 10 tribes away. That's why they were in Babylon. And the Talmud, the Babylonian Talmud, which is 99% of Judaism, was written between 350 to 400 and completed around 500, with rabbis arguing with one another and casting spells and all sorts of just rubbish. And it was that Babylonian Talmud that completed in 500 that migrated to Yathrib, that was close by, which was a Jewish farming community. And there's supposed to be, if there's Jews, there's rabbis to prey on them and to fleece them. And they went in with their Talmud. And when Muhammad came in, they figured they could make a buck on him, and he ran out of materials. And so it was the rabbis that sold Talmud recitals to Muhammad, which he twisted to make his Quran seem religious. Without those stories, you would have never heard of Muhammad. There would have been no religion of Islam. There would be no Quran today. The Quran is comprised of twisted Talmud stories that the rabbis sold to Muhammad, and that he attributed them to Allah. And so had they not done that, there'd have been no Islam to perpetrate genocide against Jews or apartheid against Jews. And there wouldn't be this religion that wiped out a third of the Earth's population of humans in its first 100 years. They are solely to blame for that religion, rabbis. And if it had not been for Akiva and his contributions to the Jerusalem Talmud, it would never have happened. So you can blame him for all of that, and I blame him, and I will condemn him for allowing Paul to create Christianity, because Paul was the first person to ever call himself a rabbi was Paul. And Paul was the mother of liars. There's just no more despicable person in the history of the world than Paul. And he made up the myth of Jesus as a counterfeit of Dowd in 52 CE. And it was exceedingly easy for someone that was schooled in the Torah and prophets to refute all of it. And the damn rabbis didn't.
And if you follow that logic, Craig, there's a direct linkage from Akiva to the Holocaust.
Absolutely, because of the fact that that Jews taught Paul how to argue against God and how to quote mine and twist, and he wrote it all in rabbinic fashion. He was able to quote mine the Torah and prophets for his religion because of his rabbinic training. Had that not occurred, there'd be no Christianity, and Christianity is the wellspring from which anti-Semitism flooded the world, because Paul blamed the Jews for killing his man god. course, it was a preposterous lie. It's the dumbest lie in the world. But religions don't prevail because they're smart. They can prevail because they're conniving. And so he fostered that lie. It caused anti-Semitism, and it was the anti-Semitism of Christianity that enabled the Holocaust. It doesn't happen without it. Rabbi Akiva was hugely to blame for that. So let me read what Yahweh said is the cure for all of this. This is in the prophet Yowel. It means Yahweh is God. Whoever knows Yada, acknowledging and appreciating what Yada has revealed, he comprehends. That guy. Yada, Yahweh. So God starts off straightforward. Whoever knows Yada, acknowledging and appreciating what Yada has revealed, he comprehends. Whoever discovers and pay attention to Yada, he is made aware and realizes what's true. He will alter the mindset to enable the return and restoration. This is the single thing that God wants the most. After 3,400 years of estrangement, God wants his children to return. And the only way they can return is for someone to alter their mindset. And that's why he didn't pick a wallflower. He picked a damn bull. I'm going to pound this in. I'm going to repeat it. I'm going to proclaim it as boldly as words allow. And I'm going to prove that what I'm telling you is true and it's been endorsed by God. My job is to alter your mindset if you're Jewish. If you're Goyim, I hope that you join us. You're welcome. But it's the same exact Torah, same exact story. And you can't get from where you are to where we are by hating Jews. You must embrace them. And your mission and mindset must be to change their mindset and lift them up so they return to Yahweh. So we Goyim are part of the covenant family, and we're going to work, and we love Yahweh, and we're going to make every contribution we can. But we're here to support his love for his people. It's just like every time I've been deployed with Leah, I have a single mission: support and uphold God's beloved son, Dowd. That's my job 100% of the time. As part of this covenant family, if you're a Goy or a Jew, your job now is to support Yahweh's chosen people. That's why he calls them the children of Yisra'el. That's our job. If that job does not appeal to you, don't apply. He will alter the mindset. I'm here to tell you that you don't want to form an alliance if you're Israel that is supportive between Christians and Jews. Christianity despises you. Judaism is your avowed enemy. This idea that you've created an environment where Muslims can live among Jews and aren't you wonderful? No, they hate you. The Quran is the most anti-Semitic book ever written, far more anti-Semitic than is Mein Kampf. And you need to know what it says. And I can prove every claim that I make between the 5 volumes of Twistianity and the 5 volumes of goddamn religion. I'm not summarizing here. I'm just telling you that is the conclusion, and it's undeniable. So he's going to alter the mindset to enable the return and restoration, which is what God wants. Return to me and I'll return to you. He will encourage changing one's attitude and relenting by offering understanding. When Dowd started blaming Yahweh for his predicament, God was in a non-communication mode with him. He sent Nathan in, and Dowd wasn't listening to Nathan, and God wouldn't talk to him directly. God's unwilling to talk to Jews directly. In the Exodus, the Jews told God to shut up and go away. They never wanted to hear from him or see him again. And so he's not talking to them directly. So if you want to know what he says, you want to change your attitude towards him, you'd like to get to know him and be part of his covenant family, you need to listen to what I said, because he's not going to speak to you directly. You're not on speaking terms with God. I am. And you need to listen. That's what God is saying here. You have no alternative at this point. Go ask Ruth. He will encourage changing one's attitude and relenting by offering understanding. Our entire approach is you need to think your way to God. We're going to provide you the facts. We're going to connect the dots for you. We're going to lead to comprehension. But this whole journey is through the mind. And we're not going to create any shortcuts for you. So he will ensure that a remnant is spared. That's our job. He will ensure that a remnant is spared. 7 years from now, that's all we're going to be able to deliver, and God's going to be satisfied with that. We will deliver a remnant. And that not only we will deliver the remnant, we're going to cause that remnant to be spared, because this job ends just as Dowd's life as the Passover lamb ended. It ends with the brutal murder of my body on behalf of Israel, so that that remnant is spared. It's the sacrifice of the Adamah Parah. And this says, so he will ensure that a remnant is spared in the end, Akar. That's the time we are entering now. And you can benefit from this by following him. With the benefit and the blessing, Makara, of a sacrificial gift, of a sacrifice freely offered, a present that's bestowed to you. My body, which Kirk and I would gradually, and probably Rich over here too, gradually say, okay, this one has served its purpose. I'm glad you got me this far, but you may have it now.
Yeah, get me out of here.
Get me out of this one. I'm ready to be turned into light and energy. But it is my body that's going to be brutally mutilated. And, I asked Kevin this morning, do you know why the temple was oriented not towards the city of Dowd, but oriented towards the Mount of Olives? You know the answer to that one now, don't you?
I do.
There's going to be 700 Yehud and 700 Goyim. They're going to be part of that remnant. And the best seating in Jerusalem, the only place you're going to be able to witness that bludgeoning, that horrific murder, followed by the sacrifice with Elia performing as the master of ceremonies, Yahowah igniting the flames and releasing the waters that will be so cleansing, is to be on the slopes of the Mount of Olives, which is just east of where the altar will be before the tent of the restoring witness. That's why it's oriented that way.
Should we remind everybody, Craig, what the Adamah Parah actually means? As you stated, the blood of the bull shed by a man, a fruitful and productive man. So the body goes, but it's gone.
My soul continues.
But your soul continues and you live.
Yeah. Adamah, the Hebrew word that is just thoughtlessly rendered ground. It is from Adam, man, with the hey ending that does not make it feminine, that expands our understanding of the word. What it does is it takes something that has the rigor and the reason and the intellect of something that is masculine and makes that thing also productive. Like, for example, par is bull. Parah is not a girly cow. It's a bull who is productive. Adam is a man, but with the ending, it doesn't make that man a girl. It makes that man uniquely productive. This is what the ending conveys in so many words. Etzah is a tree. Is a tree. Etzah is a really productive tree. And so, and on it goes. Now you take Adam that becomes Adamah, a productive man. Adam and Adamah are written the following way. The first letter is a bull. The bull's head, the bull. The next two letters are dam. Dam in Hebrew is blood. So it's a bull's blood, and the ha ending is a hey, which is a man standing up who is observant and reaching up to God. It's a bull's blood offered by a man, Adamah. That's why the Adamah Parah is so essential. It's not a damn red heifer. Adamah, a bull's blood is shed by a man. Parah, bull, who is productive. Yeah, you got to know what the letters mean. You know, Kirk, you're an artist, and you were the first really to fall in love with the letters and began to read based upon the shapes of the letters. Do you ever think that they would lead us to understanding at this extent, sharing insights at what Adamah means in terms of the sacrifice of the Adamah Parah, which is what purges this final remnant of Yisra'el and explains the whole story?
I wouldn't have thought it through that far, but there's no reason for it not to be. I mean, Moshe wrote it all with pictographs, so he put forth an awful lot of information. So
yeah, and here's a place where you and I were wrong and right at the same time, but not complete. Everyone was presenting the Aleph as an ox's head.
Yes.
And I knew that couldn't be true, and you knew that couldn't be true, because the head was always drawn with a more of a point, and a bull's head would be more square, rectangular, and the lamb's head or ram's head would be more pointed. And it's not completely pointed, and it's not completely square. It's kind of in between the two. But the thing that always bothered me about that, Kirk, is we know what ram's horns look like. They're circular like this.
Yeah, I didn't know how to
the Aleph is always like this. They're bull's horns. Yeah. And we know that a very high percentage of the original Alephs were drawn with a yoke, that square bar across the top. Yes. Lambs don't ever wear yokes. Bulls do. And I always had a problem with an ox because an ox is a very odd creature. An ox is nothing but a castrated bull. Yes. How many people are going to castrate their wealth? That bull and his sperm is responsible for keeping your growing the size of your herd, and you're going to take the thing that makes that bull so powerfully important to you, and so you're going to call it an ox's head as opposed to a bull's head, when the bull is the way that it would be 99.999% of the time, and it's productive as the bull, and it's not as the ox. And then, so we realize that it is both a bull's head and a ram's head, but it's mostly a bull's head. And that bull is the one that was used to plow the fields so that the fields would be productive, right? Right. Turn over those weeds and open the ground so that it's receptive to what the Zarowa would ultimately do, but also while being the most protective animal of all animals that man could have around him, and the fiercest, and the strongest, and the bravest, and the boldest. So God is defining himself because his title, El, is based upon that bull's head, and he's combining the bull with the ram because those are his favorite two guys. And El, you add the shepherd's staff to it. And his favorite term for himself, Ab, father, you take that same bull and that ram and you build a house out of them. You build a home for them and with them. That's Ab, father, versus El, God. So it's a powerful metaphor. But yes, the Adamah Parah is a bull's blood shed by a man who is in the role of a productive bull. Adamah Parah. That's why on the discussion in Devarim that comes first, and you can eat it whatever you want to eat, just do so sensibly. God twice says, first time he says, don't ever drink the blood because the blood is the life of the soul. Now, souls are not three-dimensional constructs. They're not energy. They're not matter. They're something that God has conceived that is beyond energy and matter. And so I can tell you they are unaffected physically by blood, aren't they? But what he's saying is it's the shedding of blood that's going to determine the fate of your soul, which means it's Passover and Towrah and the shedding of the blood that do that. And the first time he says, I want you to pour it out on the Amah, because that's all about Towrah. And the second, he says, I want you to pour it out in the Eretz, the land, because that again is what's going to happen on Towrah. And that's what also happened on Pesach. That's where the blood was poured out. It's a powerful message. And yet we have morons that want to argue about should you eat kosher or not, as opposed to learning the lesson that's there. So it's a sacrificial gift freely offered by the chosen one, by the appointed one, by the one who will be installed and set in place for this purpose. That's our whole story, isn't it? Prepared, appointed, set in place for this purpose. By whom? By the God whose name his people won't even say.
Sad.
Yahowah, your God. That's Yowel 2:14. Now that's the other guy that just happened to be the one who Ruth garnered his attention. And, this is a story. Imagine for a moment, you're going back in a time when women had no rights. They were essentially property. At a time when a widowed woman was considered so vulnerable, God had lots to say about their protection and caring for them because they were the most vulnerable of all women. Women were exceedingly vulnerable and had to be protected by men. And a widowed woman was the most vulnerable of women, with one exception. A childless widowed woman had zero value in that time and culture, anywhere in the world. A childless, barren, widowed woman was as low as it could go. And yet here's this woman with the greatest speech in the Torah, telling Naomi, your people are my people. Your God is my God. Where you go, I go. Greatest line of the Torah. Brilliant, bold. And she follows her to Bethlehem, which is really the capital city of what would become the Israelites. They weren't even Israelites at that time.
Shiloh is the capital at the time of the judges. That's where the tabernacle was.
Mm-hmm. However, Bethlehem is the heart. It was the heart of the land. Tabernacles in Shiloh, but the heart of the land is Bethlehem, the home of bread. And so she goes there, and she knows that Naomi was loved there. And she knows that Naomi is now weak and tired and hungry. And she says, I'll take care of you. And I understand the lay of this land. It's Boaz. This is Boaz's town. But he's Torah observant, which means the corner of those fields, they are there for the taking. My job to go glean them, I'm going to go glean them. And she shows up for not one harvest, for two. And the first was a barley harvest at Pesach. And the second was the Shabuw'ah harvest of grain. She's there for both. And she connects and introduces herself to Boaz in the first harvest. And then she seals the deal in the second, and in a brilliant way. So she shows up in the first, and she knows she's a looker. And she knows it. And she knows she has the confidence that intellect provide, and that there is power in intellect. And so she goes into the corner of that field, and she works harder than anybody. And she's not even working for herself. She's working for Naomi. And she knew that Boaz was not an absentee landowner, that he worked with the team. And she knew that she would catch his eye. That's why she was there. And she did. That's part of that song. And he comes over to her, and she wants to explain what she's doing. And he says, you don't need any explanation. I know exactly who you are. Yeah, I'm impressed with you. And he turns to everybody around him and says, you let this woman do what she wants to do. She's here for business, and we're going to allow her to do exactly what she wants to do. I just have one word of advice for you. In fact, I'm not giving it to you in advice. I'm just telling you flat out. Don't get in her way. Do not antagonize this woman. And he said it not once, but twice. And then he watched her do her thing. And she came back at the wheat harvest at Shabuw'ah. And by that time, she had created quite a stir in town. She had been back helping Naomi many, many times. And so she'd created quite a stir in town. This was a woman who was different than every other woman of the community. She had a mind, and she would speak it. She knew she was also beautiful, but knew how to project it. She was brains and beauty. And so she came back, and she had already had a whole conversation with Naomi about what was going to happen. He was going to work that field, Shabuw'ah. Yeah, he was going to harvest Shabuw'ah. He's like the Zarowa right there, wasn't he? He's going to harvest the Shabuw'ah harvest of wheats. He's going to take it into the threshing floor. And he and his people were going to have a great party because it's a chag. You celebrate it, right? He was Torah observant. He knew all about that. You celebrate it together. You have a great time celebrating with God. He was Torah observant. And that he would enjoy that whole thing. After the party, he'd sleep right there on the threshing floor with just a cloak over him. She knew it all. She also knew the story of Noach and the exposed cloak. She knew the story of Numbers and the insignia, the tzitzit that's hidden inside of the lapel. She knew it all. And so she did something that was incredibly bold. She showed up after the party. She snuggled right down next to his feet. She pulled a piece of that tunic right over her. Talk about bold. At that time to do that? Oh my goodness. And so it's dark. She says, who are you? And she says, I am your Amah. I'm your productive mother. She's announcing prophetically the role that she was going to play, the single most important role in human history. I am the Amah. I am your Amah. And I'm going to deliver the kinsman redeemer to you. Powerful, prophetic, inspired. And she did. That's that story. And of course, it gets richer and better with every detail. So with that introduction, and from Boaz's perspective, let's play this amazing song of Ruth another time.
Were nothing when hunger called and hope wore thin. She came to glean where grain grew, a woman of measure, steadfast and true. Through grain and some through toil and need, she walked in trust, she learned to heed. And in the wind that moved the wheat, she found a shelter strong and complete. I will go where you go, where you settle I will remain. Your people be my people, let your Elohim remember my name. Where you are, a memorial will be there. I will go where you call me, to the family for Dowd's sake, for the one who redeems and gathers us in Yahowah's name. Yahowah's name. darkness measured wide in length. He saw the gleaner in the field, and by his word her fear was healed. He spread his wings of cover and shown her peace, a covenant of quiet release. And over grain and over night he turned her labor into light. I will go where you go, where you settle I will remain. Your people be my people, let your Elohim remember my name. Where you are, a memorial will be there. I will go where you call me, to the family for Dowd's sake, for the one who redeems and gathers us in Yahowah's name. Was written, not in ease but in returning, not in taking but in giving, not in distance but in drawing near. Through thirst, through hunger, through the harvest, through the field and the promise, through Yahowah's family and the strong one who sows the grain. Kinsman come in thunder, let the covenant be like a rainbow sea. Let Yahowah's name be lifted bodily, bright and clear, pure and clean. For Dowd sings of knowing and healing, of a father who calls us near. And Ruth with Boaz stands as a witness, love made flesh and truth made clear. I will go where you go, where you settle I will remain. Your people be my people, let your Elohim remember my name. Where you are, a memorial will be there. I will go where you call me, to the family for Dowd's sake, for the one who redeems and gathers us in Yahowah's name.
You imagine God's reaction, expression, when he tells Leah 20 years ago to go ask Ruth.
The grin on his face, yeah.
Oh, the grin on his face, knowing where that would lead. And that, oh, by the way, sweetheart, you're Ruth. And I'm going to guide you to right back to Boaz. He's got a sense of humor, that one, I'll tell you. And of course, the kinsman redeemer is Dowd, our beloved son, our king, our savior. Doesn't get any better than that, boys and girls. So I'm delighted to end our story on this. We have one more song that I think we'll play. It's just fun. Not much in the way of lyrics. The visuals are really the story here. It's a woman dressed in white. It's a young Leah. She plays a trumpet, which is just a modern rendition of playing the shofar. She is silhouetted by the moon, who is her Boaz. He's the lesser luminary, the younger luminary. And it's shining against the sea because he's a man of the sea, coming up to the land. And she has a young lamb that follows her because she becomes the mother of the kinsman redeemer, who is the Passover lamb. And it's a young lamb, and they take a stroll on the beach. And there are stairways that ascend to the heavens. And along the way, there are two massive trees. The tree of the knowledge of good and evil, who is also that moon, who is also the lesser luminary, guiding us back to the tree of lives, who is that lamb, who is Dowd. The symbolism in this is really good. There's a beautiful bird that flies out of the heavens, representing the spirit. So I love the symbols, the graphic portrayal of these words, and I just think it's a It's a really beautiful song, and the woman who is a young Leah, it's Leah's face on a Leah's figure. Leah, it's Leah, but a younger version of Leah. Leah's hair, and in white, because she is the one who is arranging for the wedding of the ultimate woman on behalf of Dowd. Because when he returns, it's not just a homecoming, it's not just a family reunion, it's a wedding. And she is dressing and preparing and educating the ultimate bride for her son. And so there's just a lot of symbolism in this story. It's very simple from a lyric point of view. There may not be more than 10 lyrics in the whole song, 10 words in the whole song, but the visual story is still beautiful. It's lovely. It's fun. It's uplifting. It's not like that Ruth song. I've now seen the Ruth song 3 times, and each time I cry. And I'm one tough dude, and I have about 1% emotions, and about 99% is reason. And yet I think of all that went into God telling Leah to go ask Ruth, and the story that he wove for us to find about that, and the role we would play together. It's just the greatest love story and the greatest prophetic revelation in the whole of the Torah, and no one has understood it until now. And wouldn't it be God's style that the 2 people that live it are the 2 people that get to tell it to you?
Wow.
So let's go ahead and have the Asher introduction. I do love the Asher introduction. It brings a wonderful smile to my face. For those who don't know, Asher is the dog who brought Leah and I together. She was 8 weeks old. I had just brought her home, and it was the time that I was at the airport to pick Leah up for lunch. And I was texting away, trying to rid myself of a little problem that I was dealing with. And I was so pleased that I was getting rid of this problem when Leah walked up, and I'd never seen a picture of her, so I had no idea who she was. But she recognized that because I had spoken of having Asher as an 8-week-old puppy. And so she came up and started talking to Asher. We're wearing darn near a trench coat and boots up to her past her knees. We're in South Florida. And, no one in South Florida wears anything but flaps and shorts. And so it was Asher who brought us together. And yeah, Asher is never going to forget it. And she's going to say, I'm going to remind you of this. But so to see Asher be part of these songs, it's a tender moment for us as well. And Asher, of course, it's funny. I named Asher over the first word that I translated. 25 years ago. Asher, trying to figure out when the world was going on with what I think is my favorite prophecy, at least prior to Ruth, which is in 2 Sam 7. And it's a relational term. It means that it's the way to show the path or the way to the benefits of the relationship. And I thought that was what a perfect name for a Labrador. So I named our Labrador puppy Asher. And to find out now that as we progress in the 31st Mashal word picture, it ends by entitling Leah Ashar. So it's the feminine version of Asher, written exactly the same way, and it means the benevolent and beneficial woman. And when I met Leah, her name was Lisa. Elise formally, but everyone called her Lisa. When I met her, she says, I don't like my last name. I had a horrible husband. And I don't like my birth name. My mother was mean to me and my father abandoned me. Can I have your last name and would you give me a new first name? That's not very often somebody asks you to do that. I said, sure, you're Leah. You're Leah Wynn. And she's been Leah Wynn ever since. Come to find out, it was Leah who announced that she was the Ashar. It's amazing. I'm sure God just laughed again when he says, "Oh yeah, nice name there, pal. You figured that one out, huh? The mother of Yahweh, and she's the one who announces that she's the Asher, and then you're going to write a Mizmowr, not a mashal, about her interactions with my beloved son Dowd, and you're going to conclude it by calling her the greatest of all women. She is Asher," and that was Leah.
Is that the
That's
blessed?
very
The blessed,
patient on his.
the
Story.
blessed
Yes.
and beneficial woman, right?
Yeah, blessed and beneficial is what it means. Yep. So there is a lot of layers to all of this, and it was in putting them together months ago that they are so intertwined and play out over such a prolonged period of time, and they're so specific to our lives that it was just okay. That's transformational. We're going to follow this because this is obviously part of the plot. So, Rich, before we do that, why don't you say hello to everybody? You've been hiding there behind all of your screens, making this show for us. And it is.
I don't even have my screen set up.
He doesn't even have his. He doesn't have his.
Here we go.
There's a Rich.
There we go.
There we go.
There he
I
is.
got to meet the oligarch of Bethlehem today.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah, we had a whole conversation about oligarchs, and I was saying, I'm really fond of oligarchs. Let me tell you why. And so Rich said, "So you're the oligarch of Bethlehem?" I said, "I guess I was at the time, wasn't I?" And so not such a bad thing. But so it was a pretty amazing day we had. All in all, it's an amazing week.
Yeah. It's been a busy week.
Yeah, it has been. It's been extraordinary. So thank you, Rich, for doing that. I don't think we even have a camera turned on over here for Perry, but Perry's been sitting here to my left. We're going to get Perry dialed in on some of these shows on the blog here before too long. But thank you, Perry, for your contributions all week. Perry is really not only taking the grammar thing and trying to pull it together as a unified whole, but he is the one who is been really active in trying to feed the website. We have all these automatic feeds, but they really need to be fine-tuned and getting the music where it belongs, the invites where they belong, the vlog where it belongs, the blog where it belongs, and all of these things are all moving parts. And it takes, it's a lot of work. And then he is the most active person in the process of taking our vlogs and creating the transcripts from them using the automated process. So there's a lot of work that goes behind the scenes. It's the only thanks is myself, because I appreciate what he's doing, and Yahowah, who knows what he's doing. But it is making a website like the yadayah.com site doesn't happen by itself. There's a lot of work that gets poured into it, and he is doing a lot of that for us. We appreciate Perry in that regard. So let's have the introduction, if you wouldn't mind, guys. JB, you got anything to add before we go in?
No, nothing I can think of right now.
Okay. Will?
Well, I'm mesmerized by the story of Ruth and Boaz. I mean, we've been talking about it for a while, but I think that song really just drove it home, as only music can really do. Really, strike a chord, as they say. And it's just, I just have been thinking about, how productive you and Leah are. You're both you're a productive bull, and she's the productive mother. And when you look at the productivity, even before we have the mortal remnant, we have, close to 80 people now, and we have this incredible website to, hover around. And you were able to help orchestrate, pull that all together at a time when it is so dark, it is so miserable in the world today. And that is productive. I mean, that is unbelievably productive. If everybody just stepped back and looked at all that God has given us with the website, and everyone's contributing on different levels, they're learning things that they never thought they could learn. And that's true for me. There were, I had weak spots in my game, but I find that I'm getting better and I'm growing, and we're all growing. And it's just, it's really, sometimes it's really hard to articulate what's happening right in front of us.
Yes. Sometimes we all have this tendency to think that even things that are extraordinary are normal. That website is not normal. By the way, I think there's 130 active participants on the website that are members now. And of course, hugely more that haven't signed up as members but are using the website. But the things that we can all do is we can all use the website as it's designed so that we learn, we read, we think, we question, and then use it by sharing. This thing that everybody can do is beyond capitalizing on it and learning from it, watching the vlogs. Wonderful place to watch the vlogs because they're all put in chronological order and they're all titled, and they all play from the site. And so it's a beautiful way to watch the vlogs, but it's also a great way to interact and make comments and share. Contribute to the family through your ideas and your insights, everyone who is listening to this. So that's the hope that I would have, and I agree with you. I think it is marvelous. I've spent my whole life as with my head above the crowd, and so I've had to deal with what comes with that, which isn't pleasant in our society. And I've done it for a long, long, long time. I'm 71 years old, and I have been doing this for most of my life. I wasn't even a child when I was young. I was never a child. I just have had a very different life, an extremely full life. But I'm prepared for this. Leah's not. So yes, she's always been prolific and a marvelous contributor, but it's always been, she would find something in Torah and share it with me, and then I would take it to fruition, and she could stay behind the scenes. And now that there's the Yahowah music group and the graphics team, and that she is coordinating with and playing the mother role with a whole lot of different people, it's just too much. And so we're gonna have to pace that and figure out a more reasonable way going forward, so that she can get to a more normalized pattern and get her feet back underneath her again. It just went too far. So I just want everybody to be not only supportive, but don't be supportive in the sense of let's eat up your time and talk to you. She needs downtime. That's just how she's wired. She needs downtime and quiet time and some peace, just to rest and recharge. Because when she's rested and charged, she can do things like this song. Now, I will tell you that while the song is beautiful, I think the lyrics are powerful and the music is moving. When we came up with the idea of putting the lyrics on the songs for you to read and combining the songs with powerful graphic input, so that it was the graphic imagery, the written lyrics, the sung lyrics, and the music that were all conveying the message, I think that collectively it became infinitely more powerful than any other medium of communication. But I think it is a combination, and there's a lot of hands that go into the full production of a song like that. And so this next song we're going to sing is just it's just fun. It's a lovely piece that has it's a song that's almost entirely a means to present some clever graphic imagery that tell a story. So everyone, thank you for your contribution. We do have the two over the side. There really is a Perry sitting there next to Rich. So thank you. Captain Kirk, we just got to get you back into the game where you get some strength back. I know it's between the meds and everything else, man. It's time to get you some energy and strength, because you're just such a delightful contributor to all of this, and we all love you and your contribution your personality. So we need our pal back, and I know it's rough. And Mike, thank you for the lovely stories and for starting us off with some great stories. Kevin, it's been a very productive week. Thank you for putting up with me on the vlog on the blog. I think that format is working out very well, and I think we play off each other very well. Yeah, it's a good time.
Absolutely.
And it's even a better time when we have a co-host, whether it's Roger, who did a marvelous presentation of the news because he's so well schooled and so thoughtful, or it's just a great human story of overcoming obstacles. As
we have some more lined up for next week. So yeah,
perfect. I think that's something that's making the whole thing special. And we're obviously we have the timer there for giggles. We're essentially doing 4 15-minute shows, one on the website, because that's the home for Yahweh's name. It is our home. It's what we're all about at this point. And we intertwine Torah teaching with the items in the news and how they're impactful to prophecy, going through those things simultaneously. And then if there's a personality or something that just is a topic that is of interest, we play with it. And so it turns out to be typically 4 15-minute segments as opposed to 2. But I'm sure that the bet of there's not a prayer that he's going to limit it to 30 minutes. I was a losing hand. Yes.
You might remind people the show is a lot like a verb, a Hebrew verb. It's not set in time.
That's right. That's right. It's fluid in time. Yeah.
And time is just a suggestion.
Yes. Fluid in time. What's that, Mike?
The timer is just a suggestion.
Oh, that is. Yeah. It's a prop. For us, it's a prop.
Another reason this is better than Blog Talk Radio was we get caught off mid-sentence if we went too long.
Right.
Oh, yeah. I know. In fact, yes, it would literally cut us off. And there's so much more expression and when you have a visual medium and the vlog on the blog, we're talking about blog posts that we're either commending or railing against. It's just so much more interesting that way. And you can see different expressions and see how people play off one another and the tenor of their voice. Amazing that we stayed with Blog Talk Radio so long, but we did. And, we had a lot of great shows, and we've grown a lot together. And it's been a really a marvelous experience overall. So thank you all. Marvelous Shabbat evening. Love the new introduction. We'll do that for every family hour going forward. I think it's absolutely precious, marvelous, loving, family oriented. And if we could have the sign off of the beautiful woman dressed in white, silhouetted by the moon as she takes a stroll by the massive trees and the beach with her lamb and blows the trumpet. That's a wonderful sign off for our Shabbat. Shabbat shalom for everyone.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat, Shabbat, come home and rest. Shabbat, Shabbat, Yahowah's best. Lay down the weak, let your soul be free. Shabbat, Shabbat, come back to me. 6 days we work, then we bask. We leave the noise to hear Yah's voice. We listen, we learn, we struggle to know. We walk with Yah through the mikray. Shabbat, Shabbat, come home and rest. Shabbat, Shabbat, Yahowah's best. Lay down the weak, let your soul be free. Shabbat, Shabbat, come back to me.